Azoi mir seinen do. Mir seinen lebendig. We are live on all of our platforms, on our YidDishFest.org website, on our YouTube channel, and on our Facebook page. Shalom Aleichem, and welcome to the third day of our international virtual YI Love Yiddish Fest 2020 Hanukkah edition. So, Git Yontif, everybody. Happy holidays. It's a beautiful holiday of miracles. And today, believe it or not, is also a great miracle, because the program you are about to see, it can only be described as miraculous, because it's a miracle that I can call people like this and they say yes to join us in this incredible and wonderful program. For those of you who may have missed the last few days, we have had some unbelievably wonderful programs, and you can find them all on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook page. You can see the whole festival as long as you like. So please go and watch. I want to make sure we thank our festival sponsors, the beautiful Betsy Hotel on South Beach. I'm not there today because today's been a little mishigah. So today I'm at Casa Yiddishkeit, but we have been at the Betsy for the last few days doing all of our programs, the CHANUKIAH Society and the University of Miami Miller Center and Feldenkrais Program for Contemporary Judaic Studies. And so you can go to our websites and see everything. But today we had our children's program, Shloimel Boimel and his lucky dreidel. And I think his dreidel was very lucky because we had a lot of people watching Yale Strom and his beautiful new children's book. But this afternoon, we have what I consider, maybe the highlight of the festival, because these boys are so special. You may know them as YidLife Crisis, which you might ask yourself, what is a Yid life crisis as opposed to a mid-life crisis, which is what I'm having, because today I'm wearing my Meshuggah button, so I'm feeling a little Meshuggah, and my Why I Love Jewish t-shirt, but my midlife crisis is Ein Zach. But what is a Yid life crisis? So apparently a Yid life crisis is the identity crisis that one has when reconciling their old world inheritance with their new world lifestyle. And you might ask if you don't know, because most of you do know, but if you don't, if you've been living under a rock for the last few years and you don't know who Yid Life Crisis are, they are an award-winning Yiddish comedy web series and cultural brand who have been watched on their YouTube channel by millions of people, and I bet not all of them are Jewish. I'm willing to bet that a lot of non-Jews also secretly or not secretly watch the Yid Life Crisis. And today, just for us and our festival, and I couldn't be more grateful, they are bringing us what they're calling a CHANUKIAH-SIDE chat, as opposed to the fireside chat, right? A CHANUKIAH-SIDE chat with Yid Life Crisis. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Yid Life Crisis boychicks and two wonderful Jewish boys who I consider friends, colleagues, associates. Please welcome Jamie Elman and Ellie Battalion. Yay! Bravo! Woo-hoo!
Thank you, Roy. Beautifully read. We spent a lot of time writing that introduction for you, and you were
well, and I mixed it up. I improv'd a little bit. I added my own touches, right? So, Ellie, you're
was the highlight of the festival. You read that part very well for us. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Ellie, make sure we have his PayPal account.
Yes.
To get him back for that.
Yeah.
So you can pay me back some of what I paid you for the show.
Yeah, that's right.
Excellent.
For reading that up. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's good to be back, except that I'd say probably I speak for both Ellie and I that we all wish we were at the Betsy Hotel, our favorite place in America.
As I like to say, the Betsy is the bestie. It really is the best hotel in North America. And I'll say the world, because I really have.
I am going to call their marketing director, and I'm going to tell them, if you didn't think of this, the Betsy is the bestie, That is your new campaign for the next 10 years. Done. All
Also,
right?
can we do the Yiddish one? Der
Sure.
Beste is der Beste.
The best still. That's
Der
right.
Beste. Der
It
Beste
sounds
Hotel.
better.
They can absolutely have that log line from us for free, other than we stay at the Betsy for free for the next 10 years.
I have good news for you boys. One of the sponsorship opportunities that we have with the Betsy is that we can invite certain artists to come stay at the Betsy again, just like you guys did. So let's talk. Maybe after COVID and after everything's done, and we all get back to normal, and the Betsy is actually opening up this next week. They're starting to let people in again, socially distanced and masks and everything else. They're going to open the hotel. So when things get back to normal, we'll talk about you guys coming back. Is that a Yiddish Montreal Expo cap, Ellie?
I mean, only in the sense that it's on my keppel, you know.
Right.
So I view it with Yiddishkeit.
So I have a Miami, Florida Marlins in Yiddish. So there you go. I suggest you call the Expos and say it's time for a Yiddish baseball cap.
Well, funny you should mention, because we just did a special party for Stephen Bronfman and the Bronfman family that were involved in the Expos. And in fact, just to play the Jewish baseball geography, I think it was Jeffrey Luria who maybe owned the Expos at one point, noch the Bronfman family, and then sold it to Washington.
Wow.
Where they finally won. But then he ended up, I think, with your Marlins. I don't know if there's any Q&A going on here. People can chat in to verify this information.
But so far I'm having a good time. So I have a piece of trivia for you. What was the first Major League Baseball team to be owned by a Jew?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Can you wait? Can I ask for a specification?
Yes, it's a hint. That's where Amy comes from.
London? Just kidding.
Yes, Amy London.
Yes.
But not London. No, believe it or not, the Cleveland Indians. I knew a wonderful gentleman by the name of Mike Paul, who Oliver Sholem Malichtiken Ganeden, he passed away last year. He's a very philanthropic gentleman, a wonderful, wonderful man, and a very dear friend. And his father was the first Major League Baseball owner who was Jewish. And
what era was that?
Oh God, early in the
Black
era.
and white?
I don't know the answer, but I'm guessing if Mike was well in his 70s and heading into his 80s, it must have been way back in the 30s or 40s, maybe the 50s, when they allowed Jews to own a Major League Baseball team. But enough of baseball.
Sorry.
We have a CHANUKIAH-SIDE chat to enjoy. So boys, I'm going to take my leave for the time being, and it's all yours. And when you're ready, call me back and we'll schmooze. All right? All right.
We'll see you soon.
Have a wonderful time.
Okay.
Right. Enjoy,
Thank
everybody.
you. Thank you for having us back.
Thank you.
Yes. Very good.
Oh,
now we could talk about him.
Okay, let's talk.
All right. No, he looks pretty good, actually. I have to say, we should be so lucky.
We were just actually saying before we got on how he's Vromi is kind of the most fortunate because he had an asymptomatic COVID, and now he can go anywhere he wants. The man is completely immune to the COVID. So I just said he can go to Trump rally he wants.
I don't think it works like that.
Yeah, I don't think. Okay, I don't think that's the message we want to be sending.
Oh no.
No. Anyways, thank you for joining us, everyone. We appreciate it. I'm Jamie, aka Jaime. He's Laser, aka Ellie. Ha! According to his mug. And we thank you for joining us for this CHANUKIAH-SIDE chat, which you can see right over there next to my St. John Lennon candle and my Buddha wearing a Santa hat. Now, what we wanted to talk to you, but we figure if you're watching this right now, there's a pretty good chance that you know our stuff, our schmutz, our shtus, and we're going to do a bit of a deeper dive for you today of our 3 Hanukkiah episodes, because they're Hanukkah adjacent, sort of, they're about, but they're not really. And so we're going to show you 3. Maybe you've seen the 3, but we're going to try and break them down for you in a way that you maybe will hear new things, some hidden details, some Easter eggs that we planted in there for the Uber fans. So a little creator's commentary for you. All right, so far so good, Laser?
Yeah, it's great. It's great. You're coming through clear. You're hitting hard.
Okay, good, very good. That's because I just.
Oh, did you blaze it?
I passed it. All right. Anyway, wait, my parents might be watching this. Just kidding, guys. I just lit the Hanukkah. Now, so we're going to show what? My mother lighting a joint? What was that? Okay. Okay. I think Amy's. Okay, maybe Amy's not muted. I don't know. It's all right. Anyways, okay.
Just a little setback question. Are you at? I don't see your 4th candle. Are you're repping 3 candles until it's time to light?
No, first of all, as some of you know, I live on the West Coast. It's only 11 o'clock here. It's still day 3.
There.
I mean, okay, so I'm going with 3. Okay, good. It wasn't Amy said it's so it's not. It must be. Okay, it's fine. All right. So our first episode we're going to show you here is Bastards, and this is Mamzerim. It's our 4th and final episode from our 1st season. So some backstory on why this is a Hanukkah episode and why we did it this way. The first 4 episodes that we made of our show, which we called season 1, was done over 2 days. We shot in July of 2014 from a grant that we got from the Jewish Community Foundation in Montreal to do something in Yiddish and something cultural. We didn't exactly know what it was going to be. And so we wrote these 4 short films or 4 episodes over the course of about 6 months that we were playing with various ideas leading up to this 2-day shoot in July. And we knew that in these 4 episodes, we wanted to cover a lot of things about what we called the crisis. What is the crisis? The crisis of living Jewishly in the modern world and how we're going to square our ancient traditions with our modern lives. And there was a lot of topics we wanted to hit in these 4 episodes, including, for example, things about Hanukkah. Now, why Hanukkah? Why that was one on our minds? Well, because it fit in perfectly to a general theme that we had, that we are gonna write into YidLife Crisis, part of its DNA, which is the exploration of all of these hypocritical and strange things that we do as Jews, the way that we pick and choose certain rules and laws that we keep and other things that we don't, and explore some of the things that we had learned as Jewish kids in Jewish day school that as adults we discovered to be either just wrong or weird or contradictory, or just things that we discovered made no sense to us as adults. So one thing we wanted to talk about was, for example, the story of Hanukkah, which is a story that we learned about in school having to do with the miracle of the lights and the 8 days of the oil and the small Jewish army taking on the evil Greeks. But what we learned as adults, of course, was that the story of Hanukkah is much more complicated, and that it's actually about a Jewish infighting between zealots and more modern contemporary Jews. We'll call them Jews. I don't know if they were called Jews by then, who were falling under Hellenistic influence or Hellenic influence in the world, in the ancient world. And there's like Jew-on-Jew violence in this story. And there's Jews who wanted to progress and embrace modern Greek concepts that were, would come to define the next 2,000 years of Western civilization. But we didn't learn about those things, and we just learned about latkes. And so you're going to see that the first thing is that, he comes into the episode and it's like, here, I brought you some latkes, you bastard. Okay, so there's something there about Hanukkah we wanted to get into, this idea that we had been taught the wrong thing. Okay, that's just what I know. I'm a little bit all over the place, but I'm going to try and give a whole bunch of things here. Number 2 is the DNA of Montreal, which is our hometown, which is where we learned how to be Jewish for the first 18 years of our lives. And doing the 4 episodes, we knew we wanted to focus on 4 foods that were going to take us through the 4 episodes. So 3 of the 4 episodes were sort of obvious to us because we're going to do the big 3 of Montreal. Of course, the poutine, our wonderful iconic bagels, and our smoked meat. But the 4th episode, we weren't sure what we were going to do, but it made sense to do Greek for a number of reasons. One, the Greek community is another ethnic community of Montreal that sort of is a good one to represent the many of the ethnic and linguistic and culinary tapestry that is Montreal and this neighborhood that we shot the episodes in. Not only are these ethnic groups all these immigrant groups all upon each other in this neighborhood, but in fact, the Greek restaurant we're eating at, Arahova Souvlaki, is directly across the street from St. Viator Bagels, which is the maybe most iconic bagel place in Montreal or the world. So even on this very street, and we referenced that in the episode, how are we eating Greek when right across the street there's the bagels? And so this is how the cultures are overlapping each other. And so the Greek was a good representation also of how we've been influenced by the other cuisines of Montreal and therefore the cultures of Montreal. So you'll see in this 4th and what we thought at the time might very well be final episode of YidLife, because at the time it was a 4-episode thing. We were doing it as a passion project together, things we wanted to get off of our hairy Ashkenazic chests. And so this made sense to us that this 4th food group, the Greek souvlaki, is actually representative of all of this other Montreal-ish, Montrealais culture that surrounds us, which will lead us to our thesis in this episode, which is that we're all ish and all of our cultures overlap on each other. And in fact, bagels aren't even Jewish and smoked meat isn't really even Jewish. And so of course it's all this mishmash, if you will, of cultures and foods. And another way of saying that we're ish is saying that we're bastards, we're mamzerim. So he calls me a bastard at the beginning of the episode, but really by the end of the episode, we're saying that we're all bastards. We're all influenced by the food that's right there on the other side of the street. That's most of what I wanted to say before the episode. There might be some other stuff after. Is there anything else worth saying before the episode, Lazy?
No, I think that's a pretty good forspice of what's to come. So maybe is it Amy time? Is it time to?
Yeah, let's throw it to Amy. We'll show you the episode Bastards, and then now you can sort of watch it with some of this stuff in mind, and you'll see how we're going for all the things that Jaime, my character, is going for. Reasons to progress, to be a progressive Jew, and you're going to see Laser trying to talk about being sort of representing the Maccabees, if you will, the more zealot Greeks, the more zealot Jews, and the more practicing Jews at the time. And this is sort of the whole chevrusa of our series, is the modern Jews versus the old Jews, and that's Bastards. So I think we'll talk more after that. And if you have questions, we'll answer them after the episode. So here's Mamzerim. Roll it, Amy.
Bells. Yeah, yeah. Mein steht alle Bells. Yeah. Mein Heim alle dort, wo ich hod, meine kindrische Jorn verbracht.
Hey! Ich habe euch gebracht Latkes. Guten Chanukah, Mamzer.
Tis Juli.
Tis Juli. Du weißt, dass ich esse nicht Griechisch. Auf was sie haben getan? 2. Jahrhundert BC, gezwungen im Geier sein, Schande von dem Beis Hamikdash, ich kann nicht essen, das Dreck.
Amy, move your cursor,
2000
please.
Jahre später, und ist noch ein Cast von einem griechischen Einfluss in Juden.
Von Schomren. Für was
Schomren.
vergisst du Tomit Schomren, Epikoiches?
Und was? Zum Beispiel, auf der Griechen Frage gestellt, was ist gewinnt, sie schlecht. Ja? Ich weiß nicht. Mathematiker, Geometrie, Astronomie, Philosophie, Drama, Komödie, Demokratie. Was hat dir zugebracht zum Tisch?
Latte.
Latte. Right. Was ist nicht viel Jiddisch, es ist Slawisch.
Wir sind gewesen beim Scheidweg von griechischen und jiddischen Kultur. Wir sind gewesen inmitten von St. Viator Street, gegräht zu Kleiben zwischen der griechischen Speise und der frische, heiße, schöne Bacon. Und du, Epicurus, du hast geklebt die griechischen Speise.
Heute im Kopf. St. Viator ist gewesen eine römische Golle und so nicht Feuer von dem 14. Jahrhundert.
Das ist mein Problem.
Zweiten, Begler lernen nicht viel Jiddisch.
Das ist schön. Challe,
Polish,
Babke,
Russisch,
Dänisch.
Danisch.
Was wird nicht verdrehen, Meister? Ihr seid gewesen wilde Chais. Abgeschnittene Kopf, aber man hat abgeschnittene Potz, ja?
Ja, aber für was hat ihr mal gewinnen ersten? Will ich sagen. Weil wenn sie haben geschrieben, die Teure, sie haben noch nicht ausgefunden in etliche Sachen, wie Wertigkeit oder Safe. Und ja, in dieser Jahr ist es gewinnt, klug zu schneiden die Schmeckel, zu ausmeiden eine UTI. Aber für was jetzt, Mann? Für was jetzt?
Mach mal mit dem Mischigas, hä? Rav jeden will uns zurück aufstellen, der Base Mikdash. Aber du, die Schmeckel heute.
Gib ich. Deine Mama ist Jiddisch?
Meine Mama sieht, wir sind mit Nürnberg, ja.
Als beim jiddischen Gesetz bist du, ja? Also was die Schmeckel hat, für was die Schmeckel hat.
Okay. Ob Emetzer soll quetschen von die Deuchig von Schmeckelgreis, es ist mehr. Ja. Es ist nicht die Avoide von Schmeckelheut, oder Schmeckelgreis, oder die Blut von der jüdischen Mama, was macht es zu filmen Jiddisch, als die Frage wird, was ist es?
Ist nicht unsere Ausgang.
Nein.
Wir nicht dem Hasidim, sie gehen herum wie ein Aristokraten Polish von dem 16. Jahrhundert.
Wir sind Jiddisch, aber wir sind nicht Jiddisch. Und alles, was man meint, ist Jiddisch, ist nicht. Bei ihm ist Jiddisch, aber es ist ein Wort Jiddisch. Als was seien wir, Mann? Ich hab es. Wir seien Mamseren.
Wurde.
Wir seien nicht eine Sache. Wir seien nicht Jiden, aber wir seien nicht bloß Goyim. Wir seien Ich. Wir seien Jid-Ich. Wir seien vom Ich.
Kasher.
Ich.
Ja.
Wissenschaftlich, fanatisch.
Ja. Alle Kultur wird ausgemischt in anderen Kulturen, ja? Auf der Fall, Begler und Putin, Brisket, seien alle Quebecoisisch.
Ja.
Und auch seine Souvlakis.
Wir sind Souvlaki.
C'est ça, mon gars.
Merci.
Die ganze Sache ist vermischte Meise. Also was schluckt dir zu raten, wenn deine kleine, pintele Kultur, ob es mit Fällen alle Geschmacke Sachen arriber der Gas?
Du sagst, dass wir 21. Jahrhundert Mamser.
Aha.
Ich darf zermischen.
Oui.
Ich darf verlosen.
Ja.
Ich darf nehmen ein Lactate.
Aha.
Und ich darf bestellen Souvlaki.
C'est ça.
Ich hab nicht lieb die Pita doch. Komm mal gehen zu mir.
Also wir gehen zu einem arabischen Platz jetzt.
Sie sind telefonische Christen.
Also wie die Christen sind gewesen besser wie die arabischen. Hast du gehört von den Crusades? Die Inquisition?
Es ist genau der Platz, wo man kann finden Falafel, was ist Stamm Jiddisch.
Falafel ist Mitzri.
Ja, ich gehe Christus.
Na, ist gewesen ein Jid. Jiddisch, ja. Guten Abend.
Und das Beimale, was ich hab es verpflanzt. Oi, Pelz.
Yeah!
Mein Steak, alle Bells.
Yeah!
Mein Heim, alle dort, wo ich hab meine kindrische Jorn verbracht.
Wie wollt's es dir, man?
Oi, Pelz.
Now, we missed Lord Cavendish. That's okay.
Okay, fine.
Very inside baseball. Coming back to baseball. Yeah.
I was just gonna close off this one and throw it to you for the end. And also, before I forget, I want to say hi to Liz Morley, who wrote to us on our on the YouTube channel that she wishes that we were her sons, and that's because she doesn't know us that well. But thank you. Oh, and also I see here Ellie Azenman is writing from Melbourne, Australia. Happy Hanukkah, Freilichen Hanukkah to somebody watching live in Australia. If you have questions, you can ask us afterwards. Okay, so Ellie is about to tell you about the next episode, but I'll just cap off the first one, Bastards, by pointing out a few other things we did there now that you saw it. Hope you liked it. Hope you heard it maybe differently in a few ways now that we gave you this little explanation at the beginning. So a few things. Again, trying to play on the fact that Laser's character in our Chevrusa, in our Talmudic friendship debates, is the more religious one. He references, we reference Judea and Samaria. So that's a little sort of inside wink to, you know, I mean, you could take what you want from that. Is that about the occupation? I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of ways you could go with that line, actually. He mentions the St. Viator across the street. We get to circumcision, which was something that, again, that was an important one for us to talk about in the first season. Again, not knowing if there would ever be a second season, because the circumcision thing is such a perfect example of something that even the most reformed secular Jews often in our world won't even question if they have a son that they're going to circumcise. They can literally toss out 612 mitzvot and the entire Talmud, Shulchan Aruch, and the Haggadah. But chas v'shalom, you shouldn't circumcise. So again, that's a good example of the trope of hypocrisy that runs through YidLife that we wanted to say. But why? We're not even going to examine why we do this barbaric thing. And no, we just have to do it because that's just something that Jews do, which is actually the last line of the first episode of the season. So we're tying it all together here. And then at the very end, we wanted to mention, we mentioned the French Canadians who, you know, for them, bagels and smoked meat is not Jewish, it's Montreal. But for us, we know it's Jewish, but really Montreal and Jewish and food is all this mishmash. And that's why we thought that worked. And finally, the one thing I wanted to point out was the final moment of the show there. You see us walking down the alley outside of Arahova, and we nod Good Shabbos to an actual chassid. So this episode takes place in Mile End on the border of Outremont, where the Hasidic community lives. And in this episode, what? Wasn't
that the guy from Shtisel?
Yes, we flew in the guy from Shtisel. No, it was not. But that's very that's very racist.
And the only other comment to say that bagels and smoked meat are not Jewish, infidel, heretic. I mean, those are the words that come to mind. But we'll talk.
Epicoirus, exactly. All I'm saying is the Quebecois society and the French Canadians there don't necessarily know that, which is part of the reason why we made the episodes to educate and to expose the Jewish aspects of Montreal to the non-Jewish world there. And we one more thing we did in there, which is my character went a little bit because we're right in that neighborhood where the Hasidim live, is that I'm making fun of their garb, and that my character is talking about how they're dressed like 17th century Poles or whatever. And but at the end of the day, what we're trying to say is, but really they're Jews and we're Jews and we're all the same. So we said, you know what, and this was a spontaneous thing that Ellie and I just decided on the day. It was too harsh to talk about the black hats and make fun of their garb and end it like that. We need to show that we really are them and they are us, and we're descendants of them and they're our brothers. And even though we disagree, that they're also like our Chevrusa, and we're not into Jew-on-Jew violence. So we realized we needed to get an actual black hat to make an appearance in the show, which is something that we really should have thought about more than 30 seconds before we shot it. But anyways, we then stood out on the corner in front of Arahova restaurant and asked about 50 guys who were passing over the course of an hour or two, will you appear in our show to do one thing, just say good Shabbos to us? And 49 people said no. And the last guy said, yeah. I guess they were worried about being on camera. They didn't know what it was. They didn't know how they were going to be represented. Of course, the rest of their community should not see them in this, but this nice guy, this mensch, gave us, we feel, one of the best moments of our series in a way, the perfect ending for the first season that just was a movie magic moment, which was he said he would do a good Shabbos with us. We had him walk down, we passed him, we threw the camera down. The whole thing happened in 10 seconds. It's not even his voice that you hear. It's either me or Eli, I don't remember, saying good Shabbos. We pitched his voice down, but it shows that we're Kol Yisrael Arevim Zel Hazeh. And even though we fight and we have infighting and rivalries and I make fun of them, they're still our brothers and we still have to take care of them. And we're all ish, including Jew-ish. Okay, there you go. So that was Bastards.
Do you know the joke about the guy on the train, the secular Jew on the train, who sees a Hasidic Jew? And he turns to him finally says, "What is wrong with you people? Why can't you join the 21st century? Why can't you become part of it? Why do you have to dress like that? Why do you have to be like that?" And the guy says, "Excuse me, sir, but I'm not Jewish, I'm Amish." He says, "Oh, Amish, I love the Amish. I love how you keep your traditions and you wear your..." All right, that's it.
There you go. There you go.
Amish versus Hamish.
Yeah.
That's a good, very YidLife crisis joke, in fact. So thank you for bringing that up. I think that this Bastards episode, was a good planting of what we would have to come, except for the fact that, it's interesting to focus a little bit on the language there. One quick thing I just wanted to add, that probably most people don't understand, especially if they're not watching it in Quebec, is we had a line, "Je me souvlaki." Allow me to step back and explain these three words. First of all, we have souvlaki here in Montreal. I don't know, in many places it's gyro or gyro. And whatever way you say it is always the wrong way. So we get out of the whole G, silent G thing. We just have it called souvlaki. It could be a souvlaki pita or a souvlaki on a kebab. But this will typically be lamb, kafta, I guess is the Turkish version, chicken. This is the popular dish that's served at Arahova souvlaki, of course. When we say je me souvlaki, we're actually mixing French with that. And what we're mixing is a famous line that's stated here in Quebec that's actually on our license plates, which is je me souviens, which means I remember, which is a very backwards oriented approach to your province. But it shows that in Quebec, particularly, people want to think back to the past and their origins as opposed to necessarily the future. And just to get even more erudite on you, what they're referring back to is the Battle of the Plains of Abraham in something like 1789 or something. Jeff Idkush, please correct me if I'm wrong, where the British came to Quebec City and there was a battle on the Plains of Abraham, and basically the British had the conquest from that point onwards. And I think that was the beginning of the end of New France and all those lovely states you have in the Golden and Medina, like Louisiana and Illinois, and all these places that were French ultimately became British and ultimately became American. All this to say, je me souvlaki is our way of putting the je me souviens together with souvlaki. And it's that kind of nourishkeit in language that is at the heart of the series, but also shows how specifically in the Mailand area, you have French, you have Greek, you have Yiddish, you have a series of Hasidim that walk in and out of a series of alleyways, no joke. We are Shtisel live in the Mailand, and it's just a crazy place, which is part of our inspiration for why we shot it in the first place.
But by the way, and so I sorry to cut you off, but just to put even a finer point on it, and Ellie gets credit for that line, the Je me souvlaki, which I've heard for 6 years is maybe our best line in the whole series, is that again we're drawing parallels between the Quebec non-Jewish French Canadian secular society and the Hasidic Jews, and even secular Jews like us who are more traditional, like the laser characters. So the Je me souviens is there hanging on to their past, which is long gone and it is not coming back. And similarly, you know, the Maccabees fighting for what they're fighting for and what Laser's fighting for here. So,
but by the way, I have to bring this in right now, especially because it's a lazy Sunday. So let's take our time here. I think you should talk about the Yochanan Lowen story and how that's
go ahead.
Fascinating. So this brings the Hasidus and the French Canadian and the Hellenism and the religious together in such a weird twist that it's very YidLife crisis. It's like we kind of regret not having written it ourselves first. There's a man and his wife, and we met this man, Yochanan Lowen, who grew up in this area called Boisbriand, which is about, half an hour north of Montreal. But it's basically like an area which was typically extremely French-Canadian, but I don't know which sect of ultra-Orthodox Jews.
Tash.
It's Tash. Okay. So a bunch of Tush Jews created basically, I'm not going to call it a commune, but a very insular village there, and have a very thriving community in and of themselves. And Yochanan was one of, I suppose, many who went through the educational system there. However, he eventually left the fold of the Toshers, and then realized that he didn't have any form of secular education, none of the haskalah, as it were, to give him the tools to be able to thrive in Quebecois society. And so what he did, which is very Jewish, is he actually decided to sue the Quebec government for having allowed for this situation to take place in the first place. Basically, for the Quebec, who is the Antiochus, to allow at that time for the Maccabees to be teaching him the Maccabean stuff without him having access to the Hellenistic material that he could have used to thrive in a Hellenistic society. Anyways, the reason why this is partially timely, besides the fact I think Yochanan lives in the Mile, I don't know, I assume as such, is that they just announced that he lost his case. I don't know if there's going to be an appeal, but the Quebec government did not accept the case, which is very interesting. The Quebec government is one of the most, in some ways, progressive leftist governments you will find in North America, certainly the most taxing governments in North America, but they did not accept it. We'll need to bring on good old Dershowitz to explain that to us, or maybe Tubin. Can we get Tubin on the Zoom?
Let's not call either of them.
Okay, good idea.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything to really see or hear there. Anyways.
No.
Point is, I think you can see our process. There's always material happening tangent to whatever's going on, and there seems to be exponentially more material in and around the Mile End, the Hasidic area of Montreal, where everything comes together, the Hasidim, the French Canadians, and everything in between. Okay, let's fast forward very quickly to this next episode we're going to show you. And a bunch happens between us finishing this season finale and creating this other show. So like Jamie said, this was a passion project. Didn't know if we were going to continue. Certainly never thought about continuing. Turns out people were seeing our stuff through the internet and enjoying it. And we started getting invited to places to talk about our show. We got invited to Israel of all places. We actually did a comedy conference in Jerusalem called Comedy for a Change, about comedy and impact. And its impact on people, which was basically our whole approach to this. And we started filming around the world, started a sub-series called Global Shtetl, which is actually, you should go to YidLifeCrisis.com when you're done with this and you're done with the festival. And you can find our Global Shtetl series, and we did it in a bunch of places, culminating in our Judaism, A Taste of Jewish Montreal project, which we actually did at the last Yiddishkeit Initiative event. But we evolved in terms of the types of content we were doing, but we also evolved in terms of our Yiddish, because one of the main things that we got as feedback, see, we thought only Yiddishists would watch this. As it happened, a lot of non-Yiddishists watched it, and the Yiddishists that watched it didn't like it. And they didn't like it for a variety of reasons, mostly based on their own personalities and the fact that they will probably not like anything, but they did have a fair point that there was a lot of grammatical inaccuracies and the Yiddish was all over the place. And part of the reason why was because the people that translated it were a bizarre combination of a 17-year-old Jewish friend named Nachman Reich, who I discovered through a Bronfman Youth Fellowship program I was involved in, who happened to be here, and my, at the time, 81-year-old father. It was a very interesting combination of translators, definitely not professional. So in our second season, we decided we're going to shoot more professionally and we're going to Yiddish more professionally. And we brought on a real starker, by which I mean Rivka Augenfeld. Hopefully she's watching. If she's not, I won't take offense. And Rivka is a very talented translator of Yiddish, and we were able to work with her on a bunch of different things to get the Yiddish right. And so we did a bunch of different episodes in our second season that were a lot more produced. And the one we're about to show you that is the most Hanukkah oriented or holiday season oriented is called, of course, Jingle Bells. And basically, we had more to get off our chests about what it's like to be Jewish in a multicultural era. And specifically, one of the most interesting nights for all Jews in a multicultural era is Christmas night, Nittelnacht, if you will. What do we do as Jews? And specific, what do the outsiders do? Because it's not just the Jews, it's anyone who is not part of, I guess you could say, Christian faith, but the reality is basically a general Western Christmas spirit. And at the same time, it's not black and white either, because many Jews are involved in that in some way or another. Case in point, Santa Klein, who you will soon discover in this episode. Anyways, there's a bunch of interesting stuff, including playing with Yiddish, playing on Yiddish jokes in general, particularly a classic Catskills joke that maybe we could talk about on our way out. That for those of you in the know, you'll see that the episode is actually structured and inspired off of a singular joke. In fact, a singular punchline, and sort of reverse engineered from that point. But at the heart of it is really the idea of, as we discussed before, the ishness, the relationship with other cultures, the similarities and differences that we have with those cultures, and basically how it all comes together in the beauty of Christmas night. So I think we're good to forge ahead, yeah?
Yeah.
Why not? Amy.
Roll it.
Titmera Toive, and show us Jingle Bells, Bevakasha.
First with the salt, now with the sugar. You want to put them in an early grave.
Hey, I said no shrimp. I'm kosher.
You know, in the Chinese calendar, I'm a monkey.
I don't see it.
Okay, man, nicht gesehen, so viel Jiden in Schul. Das ist ein Schablon.
Entschuldig? Sind ein Chanukah-Lichtlich ist schablonig? Es ist wichtig in jüdischer Minnig.
Nittel hat gar nichts zu tun mit uns.
Hallo, die ganze Sache.
Let's try that again, shall we?
Okay. It's hard to understand it without being able to see it. Oh, okay, wait, she's doing it again.
This technical glitch brought to you by June. Jewish.
No. Still no. Still no, Amy. Try shutting down QuickTime and relaunching that file. In the meantime, we'll buy you a minute. Things we were playing on here, Ellie. Well, stereotypes is a big one to watch for in this, you know, because one of the things, again, that's part of what YidLife does is try to demystify or break down stereotypes or turn them on their head. So there's lots of things here that we're playing on in terms of stereotypes. Of course, the Jews in Christmas Eve in the Chinese restaurant, and how annoying we all are, and how loud we all are, and older Jewish men and Asian women. And I just want to give a shout out right now to our season 1 translator and a man who plays attracted to Asian woman. That's Jaime Battalion, Dr. Jaime Battalion, Ellie's dad, who I have to say nailed that line pretty accurately, Ellie.
He did very well.
Let's try it again.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Here we go.
See you on the other side.
Okay. How does it end? Okay, there it is.
First with the salt, now with the sugar. You want to put them in an early grave.
Hey, I said no shrimp. I'm kosher.
You know, in the Chinese calendar, I'm a monkey.
Okay, man, nicht gesehen, so viel Jiden in Schul. Das ist ein Schablon.
Entschuldig? Sind ein Chanukah-Lichtlich ist schablonig? Es ist wichtig in jüdischer Minnig.
Nittel hat gar nichts zu tun mit uns.
Hallo, die ganze Sache ist wegen uns. Hast du mal gehört von einem kleinen Jüngel mit dem Namen Jesus?
Jesus hat gar nichts zu tun mit Nittel.
Was ist mehr Nitteldick wie die Nigunim? White Christmas, Winter Wonderland, Chestnuts Roasting, Let It Snow, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Wer meinst du hat geschrieben, die klassische Smiris? Unsere?
Das ist alles wegen die Tschatschkes.
Ah, und wer meinst du importiert die Tschatschkes?
Santa Claus?
Santa Klein.
Und wer meinst du macht die Tschatschkes?
Die Elvis?
Chineser.
Ja. Es ist eine Beziehung von Bequemkeit.
Jede Beziehung ist eine Beziehung von Bequemkeit. Lemoschel, du und ich. Ich mach sicher, dass du erst nicht allein. Du rechnest so die Trinkgeld.
Ich bin gut mit Ziffern.
Weißt du, wer ist euch gezeichnet mit Ziffern? Chineser.
Schkoiach.
Hörst zu sehen, wir können uns aushalten. Hat die Junge mit so Eulen.
No pork, no spice.
Get the globe in die alte Kackers. Sir, on behalf of the Jewish people, I'd just like to say that we really appreciate the way that you're able to deal with our elderly.
Genau. Thank you very much. Meal excellent. Now we take the bill.
Kann ich glauben, wenn jeden, das am meisten geräudigste Volk von der Geschichte, seien Rassisten?
Ach, hack mir nicht kein Scheinig. Ich probiere ihm helfen. Er ist ein Fremder.
Maar keiner da ist nicht kein Heger.
Es ist anders. Er ist exotisch.
Exotisch? Dumplings seien nicht Kreiblach? Aber was meinst du, als jeden Essen, du hast jeden Sonntag bei Nacht?
Der freie Messias.
Kein Milch ist. Man mischt nicht Milchiges und Fleischiges. Und man verspart Geld für Leute. Wir haben das Sache beschützt. Der Regierung für Eltern, für Fokus auf die Erziehung und schwere Arbeit.
Fetisch für asiatische Freuen.
Und jüdische Geschäftsleute.
Machaia.
Und wir seien beide Freunde, beschaß Nittel.
Masken, aber wir haben gegeben es zu der Welt.
Vieles Pischen in dein Wandton, aber Nittel ist älter wie jeden Unchine. Hast du mal gehört, den mitzrischen Moschel wegen Haus? Absurde geboren, ein Scheich ist mitten Salem, begraben und ausgestanden in Trias am Esim. Es klingen etwas etliche Jingle Bells für dir?
Von wann nimmst du das? Yeshiva Wikipedia?
Ja, mach.
Nu, mit was seien die Mitzren bekannt?
Die Pyramiden.
Und wem können wir danken für sie?
Die Hebrelein, ja. Sie haben sie Mamis Gebäude. Sie, alle Menschen.
Toch is auf den Tisch. Thank you very much. Excellent job. Horis Schmores, Joschke Christus, wenn man geht es an. Es ist die einzige Zeit von Jahr, wenn danken Gott Menschen kommen sich zusammen beschollen. Willst du Davke aushängen nach Kreuz? Gesundheit. Aber häng mir nicht auf.
Amen.
Da jene.
This bill is wrong. You have got to be
Stop
kidding
husking
me.
around with this.
I need you to fix
I'll
this bill
pay.
because
I'll
you don't
pay
know
the
how
bill.
to add,
I got
okay?
money, Ma. I'll
How
pay
do
the
you
bill.
fix
so
this
slow,
bill?
they're
Stille Nacht, nu?
Die wunderlichste Zeit von Jahr.
他们是我的班写错，我没写错。
怎么回事啊？今天什么日子啊？
我说了，
等一等. Entschuldigen mir. Das ist ein Eins, nicht kein Sieben.
Entschuldigung, unser Sohn. Was heutzutage die ganze Edition.
Merry Christmas.
Shh.
Oh, so happy to come.
Shh. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Oh, thank you so much.
Shh. Okay. Shh.
They think I'm teaching them English.
I am idiot.
Oi, Bells. Yeah. Mein steht alle Welt. Meine
ايوه راح راسي شايف الصوت كيف تقدر تاخذ كل ما بقدر لا ما
غلط في الحساب
ما بقدر
دفعونا اكتر من لازم ندفعه لا مش هدفع
ما
ويتر فين الوقت
Meine steht alle Welt.
On peut pas retourner, man.
Und vergessen zu nennen noch Maselkicheles. Wir dürfen zurückgehen.
Was ist so, Blazer? Es ist Chinatown.
To anyone that got the Chinatown reference, you have our vote. That was we've been meaning to do that one for a long time. A long time. But very few
So yeah, let's just pull out a few more Easter eggs for them, things they might have missed. You want to start? You want me to start?
You find some eggs.
All right, so here's some eggs we wanted to throw in there. So again, we're playing on stereotypes. So the classic old joke, if you know it, the Catskills joke is about the guys eating in the Chinese restaurant, and then the waiter comes over and speaks perfect Yiddish, and they say to the manager, how does he speak such beautiful Yiddish? And then the manager says, shh, he thinks we're teaching in English. And that was the famous Yiddish joke that we were flipping on its head to do this this whole episode, really. So we're playing up on all sorts of stereotypes, which is another theme really of all of the YidLife crisis is stereotypes, Jewish stereotypes, cultural stereotypes. So you have us as Jews acting as our stereotypes, like my actual Auntie Maxine yelling at the waiter that she doesn't want any pork or spicy in her food. And how just annoying and loud we all are. That's a Jewish stereotype. You also have a Jewish stereotype, which is that Jews can be a little bit racist sometimes, which is not untrue. And this is something that we always found funny and fascinating, how Jews, the most persecuted people, can also be kind of racist-y sometimes, and how that's very funny and ironic in its own not funny way. And, you know, we're playing up on the fact that the stereotype of the Chinese being good with numbers, which of course they are, but of course Laser is missing the point that, you know, we have maybe more of these things in common than, you know, because of course Jews are pretty good with numbers too. And then one more Easter egg I'll mention, then I'll throw it back to you, Ellie, for some of the Yiddish and other stuff here. We threw in a Steven Spielberg reference there. So if you see him making the pyramids, right? We're talking about the pyramids and he's building a pyramid out of the rice. Anybody catch that? That was from Close Encounters of the Third Kind when Richard Dreyfuss is building the mashed potato mountain. So he's making the rice pyramids. Okay, it's a weird, but you know, we liked it, and it's we were trying to mimic the same shot that Spielberg does there. So there's another little Jewishy Easter egg in there. Laser, what do you got?
I just want to speak to some of the handy Yiddish translation work that Rivka Augenfeld did, because there's some fun ones in here, especially ones that I'd never heard of before. So shablon as a cliche, shablonic. I found that quite interesting. Another good one, which I think that Rivka coined, the Fria Mitzia, the early bird special. Go out and use that, particularly this 24th. Actually, don't go out at all. Just use it in your household for this year. And I believe this is the first time in our series we did Tuchas Life and Tish.
Yes. Actually, so there was two that I just remember when I was watching it, which is that because that's something that we missed a lot in the first season, was using actual Yiddish idioms and expressions. We weren't thinking along those lines. We were kind of trying to do our own Montreal French Canadian-ish version of Yiddish. How real Jamie and Ellie might speak Yiddish to each other in the Mile End in Montreal, but we didn't incorporate some of the classic expressions. So Rivka gave us two in here. Tuchas Oif and Tish, which is what he says, ass on the table, your bum on the table for bottom line, Tuchas Oif and Tish. And the other one that he did was Hakmer Nish Kein Chinik, which is maybe one of the most famous Yiddish idiomatic expressions, which means literally don't bang my kettle. Is that right?
Yeah.
Don't bang on my tea kettle. That's right.
Don't bang on my tea kettle, right? Don't stop busting my chops.
Because a chinik was the tea kettle, and when the water boiled, the top would start to bang, and it would make noise. So they said Hakmenishkan Chinik.
Oh, right. And Chinik, I always thought came from China.
Is it? Is that the origin of the word?
No, it's chai. Chai in Russian is tea. So tea kettle. Chinik.
Okay.
In Russian,
So
tea.
fair enough. Fair enough. Oh, and speaking of Yiddish, we should also and Yiddish actor icons like Avram here we're talking to. We should mention that the Jewish table that is yelling at each other is made up of some great actors from the Dora Wasserman Yiddish theater troupe in Montreal. They were all hilarious. They were all throwing Yiddish expressions in at each other, and we got them because they could do that for real. And thanks to everyone. And I also want to say, I don't think there's like 0% chance that any of our crew is watching this or ever will. But I also just want to shout out Brian Wilcat and Kieran from the first season, Kieran Crilly, who shot our episodes that really made them look good. And Yingo Bells in particular jumped up our production value by a lot from the first season. And our teacher, Eli Kogut, is in the background there. My parents are playing Mahjong in there. What were you going to say, Ellie?
I was just going to say, we should also shout out our producer, Phil Kalin, who has produced our whole web series. And in fact, this might have been his most impressive because we had 50 Jews that were shooting in a Chinese restaurant in Montreal for, let's just say, a fraction of what it might normally cost to do this sort of thing.
Not only that, but they sat there for an entire shoot day, which was like 12 hours.
My father was totally on Spilkis. He couldn't believe
it. It was insane. No, and also we didn't feed them until like lunchtime. So imagine 50 starving Jews in a Chinese restaurant in November, in a cold November day in Montreal.
In a non-functioning restaurant.
Wow.
Now then then of course we did serve everyone did eat Chinese food for real, and then we shot that, and that's how we got the whole thing. But could you imagine 50 Jews just in there waiting to be served their dumplings and their wontons? I mean, it was real. It got real. Anyway, this was a really fascinating one for us to do, as you could imagine, because of the Chinese family who really did speak Chinese and not a lot of English even.
That was going to be my question. How did you teach them the Yiddish?
It was a very phonetic format, and it took some work. It took some work and some editing. But at the end of the day, they did get it, which is interesting. It reminds me of the Dora Wasserman Yiddish Theater here, where some of the most convincing Yiddish speakers in these shows are French Canadians or from another heritage who have no background in Yiddish whatsoever. And obviously, just like any language, it can be learned. And if it's not fully learned semantically, it's learned phonetically, like in many cases they do.
Yes. Oh, and also I was going to say, speaking of the family, so Ellie's dad was there, my parents were there, our science teacher, Eli Kogut, was there, my aunt was there, and the Dora. It was a very family affair. Well, we also were able to, and the restaurant we shot in, Yangtze, we should shout them out. Sorry, not it used to be Yangtze.
Kang Chang.
Which one?
Kang Chang?
Yes, I think, no, oh no, shit, okay, let's get it right. Okay, fine. That's a family-run business too. And then you have at the end our Arabic-speaking family, the Muslim family supposedly, who's also eating Chinese, is also lactose intolerant, and also has nowhere to go on Christmas Eve, because we're trying to draw these parallels between, of course, the Jews, the Chinese, and the Muslims there. And that really was also a father and son. Was it also his mother?
No, and this is the last point I'll make, just on the issues of it. It was Lisa Walkney, and it was Phil Kalin's wife's grandmother, who is Jewish, but spoke Arabic, just to show you how much we all blend together.
That's perfect.
An Arabic.
I forgot that. That's perfect. But the father and son were father and son yelling at each other in Arabic.
I think they were, yes.
Yes. They were really, so it was a very much a family affair. I think that was all of our Easter eggs that we wanted to point out. We also see we're probably at the end of our hour. So if Avi or anyone else wants to come in and ask us any questions, so far I only see one. Okay, hang on. Fighting over a chet is very Jewish. That's from Liz Morley. Well, yes, we know. And she's watching in Israel. Thanks for watching, Liz. And there's someone else watching, Julie in Australia, in Melbourne. And also Adina, our friend Adina is at, okay, here's a question we got. This is an important question. And this is an intellectual question from Adina J. Ellie, latkes or sufganiyot?
Latkes. No. There is no question.
That's
it. It really depends. It depends on your worldview. Look, I would go latkes because in a weird way, I feel like there is more nutritional value in them, but there really isn't. It's the same thing.
No,
They're very good representations of like the Ashkenazic versus the Sephardic experience of Judaism. It's like
with latkes, you get both the sweet and the savory, because you've got the applesauce and you've got the sour cream and you've got the latke. Sufganiyot is just sweet, and I love sufganiyot. Don't get me wrong, but
have you ever put salt on a sufganiyah?
I have not. Nor
that is Ellie.
Destroy a sufganiyah with Ashkenazic influence.
Soy sauce.
You sick mumser.
Oh, I love you guys.
You sick mumser. Anyway, now by the way, so
are you on to your next one? Or do we have to shut ourselves out?
No. You know what? We have time. 4:00 is our next show. An hour is what we try to stick to, but sonst alle gehen in Dresden backen Beigel.
Oh,
so I don't know if you know that particular saying, kind of like Tuchis auf den Tisch and Hackmenisch Kenscheinig, sollen sie liegen in Drerd in backen Beigel. They should lie on the ground and bake bagels.
I like the Polish twist there on the Beigel.
Yeah.
By the way, I've been listening to some jigging in the background while I work, which is a very weird thing to do, to just put jigging on, and jigging and Schumacher.
Yes.
I miss that level of Polisher.
The best. Actually, it's Polish, but do you know where Jigan was from? Jigan came from my family's hometown of Lodz.
Yeah.
But they didn't say Vos, which would be Litvak. They didn't say Vus, which would be Polish Galiciane. They said Vuen. And that was Lodz. That was the Lodz accent that I grew up with because my grandparents were from Lodz.
Very interesting.
And I grew up with all the Jigan and Schumacher albums. We literally used to just play them like that. Yeah.
So those guys are still the reigning champs.
Yes.
I mean, that stuff really blows us away, and it's still on our to-do list, which we've had for years, to learn a Jigan and Schumacher routine to be able to perform something like that one day. That's the advanced class. Maybe your mother will have to train. Oh, you're in on that. Okay, I was going to say your mother's going to have to train us on that.
But you know what? I'm actually curious.
My friend Moshe.
What would happen if you translated a Jigan and Schumacher sketch into English? Well, where is this Jingle Bell? It's a Jingle Bell.
Hey, Maxie.
Ellie. Where is this? Who is that?
I found him. He was on my doorstep.
Nice.
And I said, you know what? It's a Sunday.
A time of miracles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. It's really fascinating. You guys are great. I mean, what I love about you guys, and if you have a third video, let's go. Let's do it now and then we'll talk. How's that?
Oh yeah, we could show it. Sure. We should. Let's show it. Why not? In case anyone hasn't seen it. I think they've probably seen it, but this gives a chance for anybody to ask any final questions. Check it out. The YidLife Crisis Guide to the Holiday Classics.
Gimel, pay up, you mumser. Oh, hi! Wir seien Jaime und Lisa von der Webserie YidLife Crisis.
Jamie and Ellie here from YidLife Crisis. As you can see, we're getting into the old Jewel-tide spirit. But this year's special. This year, Christmas and Hanukkah fall on the very same day.
Which means it's all the more reason for us to come together. And nothing brings people together more than music. With that in mind, we present you with
The YidLife Crisis Guide to the Holiday Classics.
It's the YidLife Crisis Guide to the Holiday Classics, featuring 20 timeless favorites such as Jingle Bells.
Wir fahren über den Schnee, wir schlitten mit dem Pferd. Felder fliehen vorbei, die Sonne liegt in Dreck. Klingen Neues, lächlich auf in Heus. Es ist sehr gut zu sein im Tor, es wie ein Goy. Hey, Jingle Bells, Jingle Bells.
Little Drummer Boy, check. Christmas songs written by Jews.
Oh, de Lieder, es wird sich mehr brechen. Und sie haben schon vermacht die Geschäften, als jeden haben ist gut zu gehen. Rosa Schnee, rosa Schnee, rosa Schnee. Ich kolm von a weißen Nettel, Punkt wie die Tag, was hab gekannt. Oh God, they drink this track!
We're in the middle of...
Mein Leben brat men auf ein Prippetschik. Jakob Groß beißt dir gut in
Antisemit. Sorry.
A prachtige Sach, befreet sich bei Nacht, walking in a winter wonderland.
And finally, a selection of Hanukkah songs for caroling.
Oh Chanukah, time that's so fast, it's wonderful. Chanukah, win, win, win. Who is the one who gathers all the toys and manages the elves and oversees the list? And who is the one who takes a yearly trip to China to procure those toys? The Santas! The Santas! The Santas! The Santas! We are the Jews, we come in peace, we say goodbye, we never leave. We are the Jews, we come in peace, we say goodbye, we never leave. So have yourself a merry little crisis macaw. And remember, 'tis the season for giving.
Go to YidLifeCrisis.com and support us by buying merchandise or making a tax-deductible donation and giving the gift of giving to us.
And a happy Jew year. Du schwitzt wie Behemoth, Gekack.
Oh, Jingle Bells, Joschke is a year. Oh, es ist gut zu singen, Don MS, jedes Lied.
Oh my God, you guys.
Oh, what a classic.
No, really, there's no one in the world.
Thank you.
Seriously, one of the reasons I fell in love with you guys the first time I saw anything that you were doing. There was an interesting question on YouTube. Do you start with a theme for each show, like conversion, anti-Semitic, and then just riff? Which actually brings a secondary question, which is, how much of your programs are improv and how much is scripted?
Good question.
We can break this.
Yes, I see this question. Blair, thank you for asking about that and saying that your the Rosh Hashanah Jews for Jesus episode is your favorite. And do we start with the themes or whatnot? Good questions. Yeah, well, we generally do start with the theme. Yeah, so it was sort of, we knew that we wanted to do a Hanukkah episode. Even back at the first episode we showed you Bastards, we wanted to touch on those issues. We even though it wasn't Hanukkah time, we were shooting in July, we just wedged it into a summertime episode that we could show the city and whatever. So same thing, we wanted to do a conversion episode and we wanted it to come out around Rosh Hashanah. So we started thinking about conversion, new beginnings, head of the year, and so we tied those things together in the Rosh Hashanah episode. And yes, I'd say we do start with the theme and a few different themes. Usually we pick a theme and a food, or a theme and a holiday, and then we try and tie those things together. Ellie, I don't know, is that true?
Good gesagt. Yeah, in general, I mean, there's a matrix that we try to follow between that. Yeah, a holiday could be a restaurant, could be a specific food, could be a topical point. And, you know, as can be seen in a bunch of our episodes, it's not to our credit, it's just so many things are so related to each other that we try in an almost a Larry Davidian inspired way to weave in a lot of different things into things that are 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes, sometimes successful, sometimes not. But we really like to, as you can imagine, Talmudically and analytically go very deep into something and find all the angles of it, and then try to scintillate that into our Yiddish scripts, which ties into the next question, which is how much is improvised? The truth of the matter is, we are not at a Jiggin and Schumacher level of Yiddish or a Vroimi level of Yiddish where we could really get away with the improvisation. I think that should really be one of our life goals, is to get to that point where we could improvise that freely. So the reality is, everything that you see that you think is scripted is basically entirely scripted. And in a way, as people that appreciate things like Curb Your Enthusiasm, which Jamie was actually on, by the way, we appreciate the idea of something that gives off a bit of an improvised flair. But we've had this question before. We take it as a compliment in that there's a naturalism to it, but the reality is it is extremely scripted. We very much stick to the script on that. In our documentary series, our Global Shtetl and our Judaism film, nothing is written, and we are completely off the cuff, but that's because it's in English. So, you know, hashtag life goals, try to get to a point where our Yiddish, perhaps through the Yiddishkeit initiative, gets to a point, we're already fetching, we're young and fetching, gets to
He's a Yiddish speaker, you can tell.
He's on his way, he needs to learn too, get to a point where we can really, you know, sort of improvise with some of these things as well, and then sort of do it more like Yiddish jazz as opposed to Yiddish classical, which we are right now.
Well, you are always welcome, free of charge, to join any of my with my mother's Yiddish Funno 1, Funno 2, and now we're starting a Funno 3 class. We've had several hundred students from all over the world.
Wow.
And it's amazing how this thing started from nothing, and now suddenly it's evolved into a Yiddish Fun 03. And we just have fun with Yiddish. It's just about conversational, I mean, we don't do Tuches auf den Tisch, but we do Hakbenish Kenchainik, and we do a lot of the proverbs and the sayings, and we give you Yiddish, you know, words and sentences. You know, it's only a 6-week class, so we can't really go in depth into vocabulary and grammar and all that stuff. But the idea is to give people a real sense of, you know, the Yiddish, so that they can, you know, go home to their families after the class and say things and blow their friends away. So it's lots of fun. You're welcome anytime. Something you didn't mention, which I was surprised, because I thought because you kind of skirted around it, but you never actually went into the fact that Hanukkah is not mentioned in the Old Testament, but it is mentioned in the New Testament.
Right.
Jesus had a feast of dedication, and that is Hanukkah. And so, you know, you didn't go there, and I thought you would, which actually brings up how fallible we all are. So I did an interview on the radio the other day, and I talked about exactly that. Jesus, you know, the Feast of Dedication, Hanukkah, in the time of Jesus, it's not in the Bible. And then she said, okay, well, tell me the history. I went, well, you know, the Romans were attacking the Jews, and it was, you know, but it was the Greeks and the Syrians.
Right. Sure,
and earlier, but I was talking about Jesus, so I went to the Romans. So all the people out there who's heard that interview on WLRN, please stop emailing me. I made a mistake. It happened. I'm only a man.
Fetching.
Stop fetching.
Yeah, exactly. We know. Yes. No, I mean, it's a good point. We skirt around it a bit. I think we say something in Bastards about, you know, We didn't have things at the time the Torah was written, like science or soap. That's our way of basically just, it's sort of a blanket statement that, you know, these things are man-made constructs, and that a lot of the things that Jews do come from ancient traditions which maybe don't necessarily, you know, apply to us anymore, which is why it's okay for us to let them go. But it's a great point, you know, where does it say? Of course, it also doesn't say in the Torah that you can't have, you know, chicken parmesan, right? The chicken only became considered fleischig in like the 10th century. So,
right. And I think we talked about it last time, and maybe we didn't, but when I was getting bar mitzvah in the second most Orthodox area in Israel, in Bnei Barak, because many of my relatives are ultra Orthodox, so I had to go to them for my bar mitzvah. The rabbi was teaching me, and he said, well, you're kosher. I said, no, we're not kosher. We don't, we're secular. He said, what do you mean? You eat milk and meat? I said, well, why not? Because once upon a time, they didn't have pasteurization and homogeneous. Now it's safe. 2,000 years ago was brilliant. Now it's like, why? You can't eat the meat of the baby and the milk of the mother. I said, chickens don't give milk. All right, get back to your studies. Get back to the culture.
Yeah.
The end of that conversation. Beautiful. Jingle bells, baby. I love you guys. Tell me again the Trias, what did you guys have? Trias.
Mechayim.
Well, Trias HaMesim, Mechayim Eitzim, but then you turned it into something else, and I can't remember, and I should have written it down.
Was it the hang on a krecht? He said, you know, if you want to hang a krecht on the wall, I don't know, when did we say Mechayim Eitzim?
It was somewhere in there, Trias something, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a typical thing that we do. Where the resurrection of the dead is, you know, we'll say Trias HaMesim in Yiddish, but he was using it in reference to basically Jesus's birthday, or like the resurrection of the dead, and we like taking these sort of Christian tropes and just, you know, dropping them in. Same as in our, in one of our episodes, we translate the French-Canadian slang word tabarnak, which just means tabernacle.
Right.
We translate it into the English in an episode as Jesus Christ. It's not what he said, but, you know, we're just playing on the Christian Jewish ways of swearing, and you know, the way the language comes together, and, you know, the way Jews say Jesus and all that stuff.
So I got a call. This is actually a little serious for a second. I got a call last week from an Israeli who was given my number, and he said, please, can you help me? I don't speak Yiddish, and my mother, you know, Alea Shalom, she passed away, but all my life she used to call me Triasl, and I have no idea what it means. What is Triasl? And I thought about it for a second. I said, well, your mother was a Holocaust survivor. He said, yes. I said, because you were the baby that was born who was the reincarnation of the dead. Trias HaMesim. You were the little reincarnation, the Triasl. And he burst into tears. And it was a beautiful moment, you know? So it's amazing how Yiddish really gets around. And it's got the laughter and it's got the tears. Tell me why you're not afraid to tackle the more serious issues in such a comic way. I mean, you know, that's what makes you guys so amazing, is that you'll tackle all these very horrible things in such a funny way. Were you not afraid when you started doing that people would just go, how dare you compare Jews to, you know, whatever, you know?
I mean, on one foot, we were a little bit, but we continue to have this actually as we continue to do live shows, and we do Jewish shows for different communities. And there's always a fine line between what is truly funny and what becomes offensive. And especially when you're dealing with people that hire you and they, you know, they want to honor the community in a variety of ways. The most sensitive issues are sometimes the funniest issues, but they're also the most sensitive issues. And they're the ones that are making, these are fundraisers. You know, it's the last thing they want you to do is offend anyone. So it's very tough. It's very tough. But what we found from the beginning was that the religious components did not seem to be attacked very much. The way that, you know, we might eat on Yom Kippur or something like that 100 years ago or something like that, that might have been a very, very offensive thing. Now we're in a bit of an era where I find the Jewish community, for the most part, is very open to discussing and laughing at that, which I think is a very healthy thing. You know, what's interesting is we've been seen by some ultra-Orthodox people, and they know that it's schmutzig, but they still engage with us, and they still, on some level, enjoy it, even though it's kind of like visual trafe, you know. They don't shun us. There's still a certain, you know, an enjoyment of it, a secret enjoyment of it, which I think we really appreciate that exists too. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would say at the end of the day, I think we're a bit lucky. Maybe in other religions or cultures, we would already be beheaded at this point.
Definitely.
So right now, we're doing pretty well.
I think the most controversial thing we've done actually so far was not an episode we showed today, but we got increasingly confident to do these things over the years, because, you know, we're now in our 6.5 year since we shot the first 4 episodes. Thank you, which is crazy that we're still at it. And the last Yiddish episode that we shot was an anti-Semitish episode. You can find it on YouTube or on our website. And you know, that one I would say is pushing the boundaries maybe more than any other episode, because we're talking about anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, and we even get into, you know, again, there's this Jew-on-Jew violence. We say violence, we don't mean physical violence, but, you know, the Jewish community itself, we feel, has never been more divided online about Israel, about anti-Zionism and Zionism, about U.S. politics, and, you know, all this stuff. So we made this episode called an anti-Semitish episode, and you know, there's a swastika on the wall that we're walking through a park in our hometown, and we come upon a swastika on the wall. That's something that I think 6 years ago we never in a million years would have thought we would even attempt. So we've gotten, but you know what? Even that one, we've gotten no, you know, hate mail. Luckily, we've built up some goodwill over the years, because I think, to use Ellie's term that he coined 6 years ago, we use the Trojan horse of comedy to approach the sensitive topics in Judaism, including anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, or putting a swastika up on the wall, and how are we going to respond to these things? It's because it's comedy, overtly, expressly comedy, that we think allows us to get away with that stuff.
Yeah, in my second show,
I was just going to say,
in my second show, Too Jewish 2, I tried to deal with similar subjects between Judaism and Christianity and other religions. And I think the farthest I went was putting up an image of Jesus on the cross. And I went, the fish was this big.
That's very good.
So yeah,
that's very good.
That's maybe as far as I went.
That's very good.
That's pretty far, you know.
Yeah.
That's still quite far.
Good. Boys,
Ellie,
so we're gonna have to
Oh.
wrap up. Why don't you tell everybody what you have coming up and where they can find you again? And we're gonna link to everything you do all the time. And you know that you have a place with me always. And the Yiddishkeit initiative is hopefully, you know, this whole concept of why I love Jewish, to fight the hatred of Jewish. And the idea that we don't want to get into, you know, too overtly political and not religious. We're trying to bridge, you know, to use culture and Yiddishkeit as the bridge between all the feuding factions in our mishpucha, the Michigan, you know. So what's happening? What do you guys have coming up? And what's next?
Speaking of bridging cultures, so we're up to a few things. First of all, we're very virtual nowadays, as you can imagine. And, you know, we've always made our videos and shown them virtually. But of course, to shoot videos, properly, you have to be together. So even that we can't do anymore. But we've come up with ways to be able to put on our own shows. We have a show called Virtually Jewish that we're putting on in a bunch of different places. Actually, for those of you in Colorado, you can see us on January 9th. So we're doing stuff with various JCCs and organizations out there. One thing I was going to mention, we were talking a little bit about translating to the rest of the world. We're actually working on translating our work into both French to reach both the Quebecois community and also the general French-speaking community in the world, and also have translated our work into Arabic and are looking to get that out there. And of course, like Judaism and like all things nuanced, there are different forms of Arabic, and some people speak it this way or that way, and there's no two agreements on how to properly do it. And we very much enjoy that process, and it shows how similar we are. So we're looking to complete these translations, subtitle them, and put them out. I'm very, very curious to see how other populations resonate with this stuff. From what we've done when we show our stuff, and we know we're at live shows and we show people that are not of our faith, they like it a lot, and they get different things out of it too. But even the inside jokes that they miss, they still get the tom, and they still can make the analogy in their brain between what we're doing and the way it works out in their culture. So for us, it's almost more interesting at this point to find out how non-Jews relate in different ways. So that's another project that we have going. And of course, our Judaism film is still going around. Actually, it's available through the Smith Raphael Film Center. There's a repertory film center in Mill Valley in, I guess, Wine County in California. And they're playing it right now. Jamie, do you know the link off? I don't know why. You
can go to our Facebook page or our Instagram page, and you could find it there. It's a theater up in Northern California. We were actually going to go screen it there, have a theatrical run of it, but COVID and whatnot. So it's a virtual run now, but people in the States can now see our movie there. We also want to say that working on our translation project for the French and the Arabic is the editor. We shouted out our crew earlier. We also want to shout out our editors, because as much as you say that we're geniuses, which really we love and quote you on that, the truth is it's a group of people who make our stuff look much better than it really is. And so Alain Omer Duranceau, our editor, our online editor, and he really put a lot of the schmear that makes that last episode we just showed you as good as it is. And also our editors, Jingle Bells and Bastards, Jared Curtis, and it's Bendit, right? It's Bendit, Mark Bendit. So great editors who made these things work, and we're going to need their help to do the translation. And again, it's going to be working with non-Jews, francophones, Arabic speakers, and if anyone is watching who is interested in helping us do a translation of the episode that we just showed you, Jingle Bells, into Mandarin or into Chinese. We want to do a Chinese translation of Jingle Bells as part of this big translation project for 2021. So if anybody out there is watching, write us, info@YidLifeCrisis.com if you want to work on the Chinese translation of Jingle Bells for the 3 Chinese Jews or Jews adjacent who might want. I know there's more than that. Now I'm going to get shit from people who said that I just...
Romans.
Okay.
So interestingly enough, just very quickly to kind of put the tag on it. So French and Arabic. So I grew up in Israel, which is where the Avi came from. And by the way, Debbie on Facebook, she asked, who am I? I am Avi Hoffman. I'm the founder and CEO of this organization, and I'm the one who put together this festival. But when I was growing up in Israel, in high school, they offered us a choice of which foreign language to learn. We had a choice of French or Arabic. So if you were growing up in Israel, which language would you choose? Jamie?
Arabic.
Eli?
Latke.
I
think Arabic. That's really interesting. That's
Arabic. There's no question Arabic. You're surrounded by a lot of Arabs who hate you and want to kill you. Wouldn't you want to learn their language so you could tell them, listen, don't kill me, please? So I chose Arabic. In the entire grade, of my class, not one other student picked Arabic. Everybody picked French. So I was
That's
forced
why we are where
to
we are
study-
today.
and I was forced to study French in high school.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
have a
je
whole
ne
other
parle pas français, j'oublie tous les français. J'étudie 2 années dans l'école et j'oublie tous les français. So I remember nothing except those 3 sentences, and that's it.
And then we wonder why the Oslo Accords never came to fruition.
Right. There you have
fine.
it.
All right.
So,
Thank you
boys,
for having us. Yeah.
Of course.
A hartstikke dank. Thanks to everyone for watching and everyone who asked questions. People watching in Israel and in Australia. That's really fun and cool. So we appreciate that. We appreciate you, Avi. Thanks, Amy, for your help, and everybody for watching. We wish you a freilichen Hanukkah.
Lichtiken.
And please remind me that I want to talk to you about the JCCs. We've started a new program with JCCs that maybe we could do something together. So we'll talk about it. Great.
Jigen, Schumacher, and Ovrum.
There you go. Let's do it. I'm ready.
Done.
Anytime.
Done.
All right. I'm going to let you guys go, and I'm going to say goodbye to my people. Ashenim and hartlichen Dank. Bleib gesund. Don't forget to wear your masks. Don't forget to wash your hands and distance. All right. You have the NYC. Do you have the NYC crotch mask?
I have my crotch mask. Of course, I have my crotch. That's a collector's item.
It is a collector's item. As a matter of fact, you know what? Here's mine. Right.
Okay,
now.
go. He's going full.
I love.
Where's your Marlin?
Yeah.
My NYC crotch, baby.
Nice.
There's nothing
nice.
better than an NYC crotch. And if you don't know the story, send me an email. All right. Thank you, boys. We'll see you soon. I can't wait till we're back at the Betsy. All right.
We'll see you at the Betsy.
Good.
We'll see you at the Betsy.
Thank you. Sei gesund und stark. All right, everybody. So what could I say? Can I be more proud to have such friends all over the world, and these incredibly talented young men who have discovered their Yiddishkeit, their Yiddish language roots, and have been able to bring it to millions. I mean, I'm not exaggerating, guys. This is not hyperbole. They have been watched by millions of people. They've done videos with major celebrities, not Mayim Bialik and Howie Mandel, just to mention 2. These boys are amazing, and I am so incredibly honored that they are willing to participate in the work that we're doing to bring Jewishness and Yiddishkeit to the world. So once again, my name is Avi Hoffman. Our website is YI, Yiddishkeit Initiative, right? Yiddish, YI Love Jewish.org. So go to our website, you'll see everything we do. And by the way, when you go to our website, you may notice that you can actually buy a beautiful tote bag with any letter of the Hebrew or Yiddish alphabet. And of course, why I love Jewish. And if you wanted to buy more merchandise to put in the tote bag and give it to people as gifts, of course, we have our YI mugs. We also have a mensch, be a mensch, kvelling. We have schmoozing. We have all sorts of great mugs. We have t-shirts. We have hoodies. We have all sorts of wonderful books. For instance, the Legends of the Aleph Bet coloring book. What a great gift for adults and children. It's got all the amazing, beautiful letters of the Aleph Beis created by a great artist named Ben Zion Zuckerman in 1919. And he did, look at that Lamed. I mean, it's just gorgeous, all right? Every single letter. So you can get your name just like I got mine, Aleph for Avi, all right? And you can also get all of our other books, including A Breed Apart, my mom's memoir, Legends of the Aleph Bet, the real book, which is pretty amazing, Curious Rabbinic Tales, the shortest tall stories. So we are promoting Yiddishkeit and Jewish culture, Yiddish language, But not only, we do Ladino projects, and we're trying to bring the whole Meshugane Yiddish Jewish mishpucha together. All right. So go to our website at 4 o'clock today. There is a schmoozing with Avi where you'll see some of my schmooze with the boys, with the YidLife Crisis boys, and many others from all over the world. And I have an interview with the great Tova Feldshuh, who is one of the greatest actresses in America, really, truly, and I'm not making it up. Again, I'm not being hyperbolic. When you hear what she's done on Broadway and film and television, she has been nominated and won awards all over the place. And she wrote a book called Lilyville, all about her mother, Lily, and her growing up as Terry Sue Feldshuh, and not Tova. She changed her name to Tova. So I find that fascinating. It's a great interview. And then, of course, tomorrow we're doing an interesting experiment. It's a fundraising concert called Hanukkah in Jazz Time. So if you go to our websites, yiddishfest.org or yilovejewish.org, and you register and you choose Why I Love Jewish as your affiliated organization, we get a portion of the $18 ticket price. And it's going to be a great concert, Hanukkah in Jazz Time, with Maestro Aaron Kula and his mishpucha, who are all very, very grois yichis, cantors and rabbis. I mean, it's really an amazing family. And so you can help support the organization. All right. I want to thank again our sponsors, the Betsy Hotel, without whom we couldn't do so much of the work we do, the University of Miami, Feldenkrais Program and Miller Center, the Chenstochove, Miami-Dade County has given us grants to continue our work. But bottom line is, without you, we are not able to do anything because it's all for you. And right now, everything we do is free, but it's not free to the artists, which means we have to pay them. And so we reach out to you for help in any amount. There is no amount too small. So please go to whyilovejewish.org or yiddishfest.org and donate whatever you feel comfortable with. It's the end of the year. You might need a tax write-off. From what I understand, the laws are much more advantageous for those who donate and give tzedakah, which is one of the great and wonderful mitzvot, one of the great blessings in life, is to give charity. So please feel free to give charity in any amount. Make it a monthly amount. $5 a month, $10 a month, $15 a month is $180 a year, which is chai. So join our chai life and our Chai Society and become a member of the Yiddishkeit initiative of YI. All right? And so thank you again. At 4 o'clock in just 20 minutes, we have another program. So come back, join us, tell your friends, share us on YouTube, subscribe, go to Facebook, like us, follow us on Twitter, come to the website, do what you have to do, and I will see you very soon. Ashenim dam.
My name is Chaim Shaked. I'm a professor at the University of Miami, and I am the director of the George Feldenkrais program in Judaic Studies, and I'm the founding director of the Sue and Leonard Miller Center for Contemporary Judaic Studies, which is a university-wide center at the University of Miami. If we look today at the Jewish world, the Jewish communities in most countries still have segments which adhere to the old definition of who is a Jew, but much larger segments today consider themselves Jewish because they're part of a tradition, part of a culture. One such important element has become known more recently as Jewish peoplehood, a subject which is of great interest to me personally and to the programs which I am developing. Jewish peoplehood includes, for instance, a very important component of the Yiddishkeit initiative, and that's why when I heard of this idea, right away I outstretched my hand and we are developing a partnership.